The questions that I asked really had more to do with governance and how each candidate sees the job itself. The questions that I was hoping to get from the people who live in the district are the ones that are before us now, because the people who live here obviously know the issues quite well. And so I'll begin with a question for both. And this is in the realm of education policy, and the question is, in a time of federal cuts to programs, what will you do to defend after-school and federally funded arts programs for students in LAUSD? Carl, would you like to start?
First off, my wife is a librarian. I'm proud to have I see the libraries and our parks and our arts programs as the extension of our schools. It is the commitment of the city of Los Angeles to invest in that, because if we don't invest in it today and get the kids off of the streets and into these types of programs, into library programs, into arts programs, into recreational programs at our parks, they're going to be on the streets out in front of the bad elements that are going to attract them, and we're going to be paying for that in the future as a society. So if we pay for it now, and it might cost us now, we won't have to pay for it later. That's why I'm proud to have a wife who understands that. She's been a children's librarian, a public children's librarian. I'm proud to have the support of the public children's librarians throughout the city of Los Angeles, because they understand the needs that we have. They know that I have the understanding to invest in our libraries and our parks and fight to make sure that all the programs that we have are expanded upon, because if we don't invest in it now, we're going to invest later. I'd rather invest now and make a brighter future for our society and the kids in it, as opposed to invest in the future with crime issues and gang problems.
Monica.
Thank you. This is a very important question, and it's one that's very dear to my heart, because as a high school senior at San Fernando High School, we suffered through immense cuts of our music programs, and there's photos of me leading the charge on the rallies to protect music in schools, because every kid needs an artistic outlet. They need something that they can gravitate to, and arts funding is critically important to providing a unique outlet for many of our youth to express themselves in a way that they feel most comfortable. That's why I'm so glad that I am supported by people like Levi Ponce and Christy Sandoval, people that have lent their talents. They came from the community of Pacoima. They're incredible artists that are leading the revolutionary charge of our mural mile along the Van Nuys corridor. These are individuals that have also created programs for youth and making sure that they have become mentors in these areas. As someone who has founded after-school programs, as a board member of the North Valley YMCA, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars so that our kids could have those quality after-school programs available to them on their campuses, so that parents didn't have to worry about transporting them to another location. Making sure that these programs are available on our school campuses is in a partnership. As a community leader, as a mother, and as a policymaker, I will be a champion for, because I have been a champion for these issues. I will continue to fight for them, because I know how important it is to making sure that our kids have every opportunity to be successful in our community. It is one of the pillars that we need to be providing to make sure that our kids have the kinds of opportunities for success that I was afforded growing up in this community.
Thank you. Those are great. Those are great answers, but let me ask you a little bit tougher question: is what kind of resources are you prepared as a city council person to devote toward the kind of programs that you each just cited with respect to education?
The council offices have the ability to, they have some of their special funds that can go to programs like this. Our kids are the #1 priority. The reason I ran is because I have 2 small children, and I want to make sure that I leave them a city that is better than the city that I grew up in. We had some resources, we had a great valley, but there was a lot wrong with it when I was growing up. There's even more wrong with it now. And investing in the kids, investing council resources, going out there and fighting at the state level and at the federal level to say, here is why our communities matter. Here is why our communities have not gotten the services, and be able to deliver the services for those communities is something I've done. It's something I will continue to do. There is no magic bullet that I can point to and say, here's the funding source that I'm going to be utilizing, but what I am going to do is make sure that any of the funding sources we have are utilized for the communities that they're intended for. Unlike the Lopez Canyon Trust Fund that was supposed to go for that community around Lopez Canyon, but got spent for other resources outside of the community, it needs to be spent within the community it's impacting. Those funds need to be allocated, funds like that need to be allocated to the communities that they're impacting, and with that we'll be able to create resources. We already have some gems like the McGroarty Arts Center and other art centers throughout the city. We need to now program those so that our kids have the programming that they need.
Great. Thank you. Monica.
I'm someone who's had a great deal of experience of creating the kinds of partnerships and collaborations to making sure that we get the resources, whether the City of Los Angeles offers it or not. It's how I was managed to co-found the Fire Academy, which was a partnership between LA Unified, the Community College District, and the City of Los Angeles to provide these school-to-career opportunities on an after-school basis for these kids. Making sure that the arts funding that is available through our Department of Cultural Affairs we have money available. It has just not been accessed for our community, and making sure that we get those cultural affair dollars here to provide the kind of programming opportunities for our youth is something that I will be a champion of in our district, because we have a number of youth that need that creative outlet. And as someone who understands the opportunities that we have here just for the beautification efforts of our community is something that I will be a champion of, because I understand how important it is not just ensuring that we have those programming, those after-school programs, but making sure that these kids have that creative outlet. We do have resources at City Hall. We have just been failed by our leadership in bringing it here and delivering it. I will bring it, I will deliver it, because that's what our kids need.
Thank you for being more specific on that. So this is a question about homelessness, and I'm going to riff a little bit on it before I get to the direct language. The issue of homelessness has gotten on the agenda in a way that I don't think has been on the agenda in at least 20 years, and a lot of it is driven by the cost of housing in Los Angeles and the gentrification of downtown Los Angeles. And my understanding is that the 7th District has become the destination in recent years for large numbers of homeless. So if each of you could kind of give an overview of what's driving the issue here in the 7th, and then the question here on the card is asking, without citing directly Garcetti's plan, what would you do with originality and imagination? What would you add to Garcetti's plan, I suppose, to solve homelessness, particularly here in the 7th? And I think, Monica, it's your...
Yeah. So currently, based on the last homeless count, we have an identified group of homeless that are either 60% have been identified as having mental health issues and addiction issues. What we need are the boots on the ground to do the outreach efforts that are going to connect these individuals to the services that they need, to get them off of the streets, to get them into the supportive housing services that they need. Right now, it's not okay for them to be living in our parks and having our children exposed to these environments. We need to make sure that we connect these individuals with the support services that they need by being proactive and going after them with these resources so that they can be better served, and getting them out of the conditions that they're currently living in.
Caro.
Angelinos have opened up their hearts and opened up their wallets with Measure H and Measure HHH. But when we're working on implementation of those, we need to make sure that the 7th District is cared about, but not all of the homeless issues become dumped into the 7th District. So we need to make sure that the homeless issues are addressed. We need to bring the service providers to the 7th District. I have worked with different homeless service providers to create permanent supportive housing. That is the long-term goal, but we'll never be able to build our way out of this problem. What we need to do is, A, make sure that the 7,000 homeless individuals that are out here in the valley are not in places that are endangering themselves and endangering us. At nights, when you stand outside and look into our open space, look over the washes, you see the fires. we, just a couple of years ago, had a devastating fire in Griffith Park because of a homeless individual who ended up passing away because he was smoking and fell asleep. And if that was in our neighborhoods, with the response times we have, it would have not only been the next sand fire or the next station fire, it would have also burnt down people's homes. It's not safe for them, it's not safe for us to allow them to be out there. We need to be working with them, we need to enforce our rules in those areas for their safety and ours. What we need to do is create what I have in mind for originality is create a service card program where we put some responsibility on the homeless individuals to actually be able to better themselves. Create a card system where every 2 months, every 2 weeks, they have to check in with the service provider so that they get a stamp that says, if I can just quickly finish this thought, they get a stamp that says that they visited a service provider. LAPD, right now we haven't been enforcing our rules across the board. If we say that at least that way, if you have your card stamped, we will continue not to enforce our rules. If you don't, we're going to start enforcing our rules so that you can actually start helping yourself out so that you can visit a service provider. When you visit that service provider, you have the opportunity at that point to, on the fourth time maybe, creating that relationship, and on the fourth time maybe that social service individual can say, you know what, Johnny, it might be time for you to visit the AA next door. We've created this relationship, you should do this. Or visit San Fernando Valley Mental Health. Put some burden on them to be able to help themselves out of this because we can't do it alone. Our communities here in Sylmar, what we also need to do at the same time is make sure that we have the appropriate mitigations and a plan to come back with the operators to make sure that there aren't impacts to the surrounding neighborhoods. For example, I've heard of a fear that the fences are too low, people are going to jump the armory fence, go across the wash and jump into people's backyards. That is a physical thing that can be addressed by creating a better barrier. We need to sit down and actually find mitigations to all of these problems before we move forward on this, and then have a quarterly meeting to address any other problems that may be occurring in our communities because of this location.
Thank you.
Right now, we're waiting on the results of feasibility to even see if it's going to be financially available to even use that facility, and you know, making better use of taxpayer dollars. Taxpayers approved Measure H and HHH, but they didn't want it to be spent recklessly. They want to make sure that their taxpayer dollars are being used prudently, and so before we can commit to saying that this armory should be provided a year-round service at tremendous expense, we need to really evaluate the cost associated with not just keeping that facility open year-round, but also making sure that if it's going to happen, that it would provide the kind of wraparound services that wouldn't allow it to just become the next nuisance. We have to make sure that it's done thoughtfully and responsibly, and that's what my position is on this armory, to making sure that we make the best use of our taxpayer dollars.
Okay, so this next question is about a core service that has been lacking in the 7th District for many, many decades, and that is sidewalks. And the questioner asks, Los Angeles has $1.3 billion to spend on sidewalk repair as per the Willits settlement. How do you plan to implement such repair?
So as a commissioner on the Board of Public Works, this is something that I'm incredibly familiar with. And, you know, when the city implemented even the 50-50 program, our community was disproportionately at a disadvantage to even being able to utilize that program because our residents can't afford to be able to split the cost of a sidewalk repair. The program, as a result that it's available through the Willits settlement, will finally allow our community to get the sidewalks that we deserve so that we don't have the buckled conditions that many of our neighborhoods have had to deal with for decades. And so I know, having walked precincts up and down Astoria, I've seen the buckled sidewalks, and so proactively working with the residents in the district to ensure that they can start filing and applying for this program dollars is one of my #1 priorities, because this is our opportunity to finally get more than our fair share, because we have gone for far too long without any of these infrastructure projects. And I'm very excited about this settlement agreement because it's going to finally allow our residents to be able to get the sidewalks that they deserve.
The failure of our city leaders for the last 30 years and the failure of the public works department for the last 30 years is very evident within our communities. For 30 years, the city has lacked the investment to make sure that our sidewalks don't get to the place that we have to be sued before we start fixing them. That was an unacceptable thing. It's one of the few times I'm glad that the city of Los Angeles lost the lawsuit so that we can actually turn around and start investing back in our communities, investing back in our sidewalks. Now we need someone who isn't going to be more of the same of allowing the investments not to happen in our neighborhoods. Because if you look in our neighborhoods and you look in other parts of town, our neighborhoods have it worse. And we need someone who's going to actually be able to stand up and say, no, our constituents need this more than you do. I'm not going to make a deal for something else, or I'm not going to be looking for my next step and have you support me for my next step so that I can give up some sidewalk dollars or any of that. I'm going to be the champion that's going to be fighting for the 7th District and the constituents of the 7th District to make sure that our sidewalks get repaired in a timely manner and faster than the rest of the city, because we, for too long, have not had the investment in our city, in our communities.
Thank you. All right, here's a couple of hardball questions, just so you guys steel yourselves here. And these are questions about outside money into your campaigns. This first question, Monica, goes to you. Why are Chevron and other oil companies investing in your campaign?
So I can't control those independent expenditures that are being made in support of my campaign. That is nothing that I can be a part of. I was endorsed by the LA Chamber of Commerce because I am someone who has an incredibly strong and tested record on business issues. It's why they endorsed me over my opponent, who equally sought that endorsement. Of the donors, Chevron happens to be one, but it is not because of my relationship or any commitment that I have to Chevron. In fact, I don't have one. I have a commitment to the residents of this district, just as I've had for the last 22 years as a resident, as a public servant, and as a 40-year resident of this district. And so I will always put the needs of this community before anyone else, just as I have as a leader in the community, just as I've had as a resident, because I have a vested interest in making sure that our community gets everything that it needs. And my support has come as a result of having been someone that has had an outstanding track record on business issues, making sure that our small business community is supported, and I'm very proud of having that endorsement by the LA Chamber of Commerce.
Let me follow up, Caro, and then I'll ask a separate question of you.
All right.
Monica, do you know, and I don't know the details, but do you know offhand, what is the sum that Chevron has donated to your campaign?
They haven't donated to my campaign.
Sorry, they're independent expenditure.
There's independent expenditure that the Jobs PAC, which is the LA Chamber of Commerce PAC, I believe the Jobs PAC, based on the last ethics report, was somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000. But that's a jobs pact that, again, has multiple business owners that are a part of the LA Chamber of Commerce.
And I guess my other question is, Chevron, my understanding, is based in El Segundo. Do they have business before the city of Los Angeles? And so why would they be donating to anybody in the city of LA? Again,
they're not donating to me. So they're not donating to my campaign.
Why would they be
part of the LA Chamber of Commerce?
No. Why would they be donating to an independent expenditure on your behalf?
So again, the LA Chamber of Commerce has a political action committee, of which they not just supported my candidacy, they supported a number of members running for LA City Council and a variety of other offices. It is not singularly applied to me. This is a political action committee by the LA Chamber of Commerce that has multiple donations from many business owners, many companies throughout the city of Los Angeles. And they invest in supporting candidates. Nothing that I can control, nothing that that my campaign has directly solicited or benefited from. I don't have any Chevron dollars in my campaign fund.
Understood. Yeah, so, Caro, I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask a question, I guess, and then we'll reverse that when the question is directed to you.
Sure. very smart individuals who have invested in my opponent, not only through the LA Jobs PAC, but the California Resources Corporation, also known as Occidental Petroleum, invested $10,000 directly in, without going through the Jobs PAC, but directly into a independent expenditure. Middle class, fighting for the middle class was a super PAC that was created. When you look at who's funded that, there's another $10,000 from the Coalition of Petroleum Industry that's put $10,000 into that directly into an IE for her, not funneling it through the Jobs PAC. Then you have the Jobs PAC. When you sum all of this up, it was $87,000 in the primary. They've already spent almost $6,000 in this cycle. In addition to that, the relationship doesn't stop now. The relationship was 10 years ago when Chevron donated directly to her campaign the maximum contribution 10 years ago. So the relationship isn't something that was created for this cycle. It's been an ongoing 10-year relationship. There are 58 oil wells that are dry in the 7th district. The only way that those can be activated is by fracking. I oppose fracking, and fracking, causing one earthquake in our community is going to devastate any of the economic benefits that fracking might bring to our communities, and that's not acceptable, not including the environmental harm that it's going to be causing also. So they've been investing in my opponent. They are very smart individuals. They know why they're investing in my opponent.
I want to give Monica a chance to respond.
I need a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, please.
Because again, I've been a victim of having false and negative attacks based on an individual that moved into this district to run for this seat because he doesn't have a record of his own to stand on. I want to make the record perfectly clear. I have no control of these efforts. I am not in support of fracking. I will stand up to making sure that we don't have fracking in our community. And I'm tired of these baseless attacks because you don't have your own record to stand on. It's why you were trying to levy intimidation tactics on the members of the Chamber of Commerce on that endorsement. I am someone who is very proud to have been someone that has been a champion of small business issues for the City of Los Angeles when the negligence of the elected leaders that proclaim to be about supporting small businesses in the City of Los Angeles neglected to do their job. I stepped up and fixed some of our broken systems in the City of Los Angeles, like overhauling Bavin, which has resulted in more small businesses able to compete for city contracts. I have had a strong track record in building a strong local economic fabric for our community in the City of Los Angeles, and I'm proud of it.
So it's time to turn the tables a little bit here, I guess.
Sure.
A question again from the audience. These are questions from the audience directed to you, Caro, and then we'll do the same thing, give each other the same opportunity to do it back and forth. Caro, you have accused Monica of taking money from Big Oil, but how much money have you taken from developers, or I guess also been spent on your behalf by developers? And why did the LA Times drop their endorsement of you after the primary?
The LA Times didn't drop their endorsement of me. The LA Times had endorsed Monica Ratliff in the primary.
Right, that's correct, yeah.
So that being said, first of all, I'm proud to say I'm born and raised in the San Fernando Valley. I was accused of I've lived within 8 miles of this location my entire life. Political boundaries come and go. Commitment to the city doesn't, and commitment to the valley doesn't. I have had 945 individuals contribute to my campaign. I have zero super PAC money. I have nothing more. No one has done more than the $700 maximum that anyone could have done. My average donation is around $300 that I've received in my campaign, and I do have people in the building industry that have donated to my campaign. So has my opponent, and my opponent claims that I have $10,000 worth of building industry. I don't know. With 945 contributions, I don't know, but. Let's assume the 10,000 number that they're claiming is accurate. If the moderator can at least moderate this part.
Yeah, I think once we begin to have questions directly from the audience, I think we've kind of lost what we're hoping to have here tonight. So, but we will have more opportunity for questions from the audience. But let's get back to allow Kara to finish.
So I have taken money from individuals in the building industry. I've taken money from small business contractors from the San Fernando Valley. But no contribution of mine has been more than $700 because I don't have super PACs funding my campaigns.
I want to give Monica an opportunity to ask or respond.
Yes.
Question for Caro.
So, like Caro, again, it's a distortion of the truth, the way he likes to present this information, because the reality is that no one can accept more than $700 of an individual contribution from any entity, and I have played by that rule because that is the rule. It is, you would get fined if you didn't. And so I'm proud to say that over the 1,000, actually the 1,400, the over 1,400 donors that I've had to my campaign, 51% of my donations were $100 or less. 30% of those donors came from within the 7th district. That's a reflection of the kind of grassroots local community support that I have in this campaign.
Sorry,
it is
30% in the district, that's a reflection of grassroots? 30%?
30% of over 1,400 contributors to my campaign. I would say that's absolutely, he can't compete with that. It's one of the reasons why I actually was able, I was the first candidate to qualify for the city's matching fund program, because I was successful because of the level of grassroots support that I have from this community as being someone who has served this district, who's been a stakeholder of this district for her entire life, that I have been buoyed by the local support. Because people know my work, they know my work ethic, they know my credibility as being of service to this district. I'm not someone who's here capitalizing on a political opportunity. It begs the question is whether or not the residents would be in this district had this political opportunity not come available to you. I was someone who made the decision to run for public office just because I ran for this seat in 2007 against Richard Alarcon, because I believe then, as I believe now, this district has been disenfranchised by a lack of leadership, and I am someone who is going to stand up and fight for this community the way it's always been deserving to do so.
Carl, let me ask you, since I asked Monica directly, do you know what percentage of contributions to your campaign have come from within the district?
Somewhere about 25 to 30% of my contributions are from the district. I don't have an exact number. And yes, she was able to get the city's matching funds before I was, because she is a better fundraiser than I am. I'm not good at calling people and asking them for money, so I apologize for that.